This morning, Games Workshop revealed a bunch of new things via the LVO preview, and it was actually quite a good preview, I thought. There was a distinct lack of a certain faction of armoured, genetically engineered warrior freaks, but you know what? That made it quite refreshing in a way. And when it comes to 40k, we got quite a few nice reveals. We got new Kroot, which is massive, and that will be the subject of its own video tomorrow. We also got new Mandrakes, which is great because they've been not available for I don't know how long, but one of the things that I found most exciting was Plastic Solar Auxilia, because not only is it Plastic Solar Auxilia, but also new tanks to go along with them. Oh, and before we get into things, this video was brought to you by Serious Lights. Now, admittedly, when I say new tanks, I'm kind of stretching the definition because these are tanks that have been previously available, but they were only available from Forge World in resin, and as such were obscenely expensive, as those vehicles tend to be. Which, you know, we know that that's how it works, we're used to it at this point, but we have the Dracosan, which is an awesome thing to actually have in plastic. It's also a hilarious transport. I absolutely love how kind of mad it is. I mean, that takes 10 lads and has a demolisher cannon on the front, because every transport needs a demolisher cannon. Actually, why don't we have demolisher cannons on Chimeras? What happened to that idea? Come on, let's just, let's just up the firepower a little bit. I'm sure it'll be fine. I really like this thing. I really like it. And this was like the tip of the iceberg. This was the thing where I went, oh, okay, this is going to be really, really fun. I like this a lot. Because on top of that, we got a walking fridge with a gun on the top and a different, well, it's not really a gun, a missile launcher on the side. I have so many conflicting feelings about this thing. So, this is the Aethon Heavy Sentinel. And from the moment they were revealed for Legions Imperialis, I could not work out whether I liked them or not. I think I do. I think I like them. I think also they make me think of BioShock, which I don't know if Games Workshop was specifically going for, but I'm also not mad about it either. It's very chunky, it's very hefty. It does have a certain weird charm to it, where someone in the chat, whilst we were streaming the reveals earlier today, said that it looked Imperial, but it didn't look 40k, which I think is a great way to put it. And I will say that's a nice general kind of feel for quite a few of the things that were shown off. When it comes to the Solar Auxilia, they are recognisably Imperial, but they aren't quite as refined as the vehicles that we end up with, even though the vehicles we end up with aren't really all that refined at all. There's a lot more extra kind of decoration, there are more like rivets, there's a lot more kind of overt clunkiness about them, which I really, really like, but in this specific instance, I've got two separate parts of my brain going to war on whether I actually really like this or don't actually like it. And I think the liking it is winning out, to be fair. I think it is winning out. Now, before we go on to the two things I'm super, super excited about, and the main purpose of this video, which really no one asked for, but I did say I would do it, and I will stick. I'm a man of my word, and I will stick to what I said. We need to have a little look at the actual infantry themselves, because whilst the vehicles are the thing that I'm most excited about when it comes to this plastic stuff, there is also the infantry to take a look at too, and it would be unfair to leave them out in the cold. Before I do that though, here is a message from me in the past. This video is sponsored by Serious Lights, and that right there is my Serious Light. Did I even really remotely? Wow, I was way off. You get the idea, it's fine. It's the high definition table light, and you will have noticed it in the background of pretty much every video that contains my face, because it has not left my desk since the moment it arrived in this house. It is by far the best light I've come across for painting and kit bashing miniatures. If you want to throw together some man-made horrors beyond mortal comprehension, then I really can't recommend it enough. It's done wonders for my painting, especially since, thanks to the daylight wavelength technology that it employs, I don't get headaches within an hour of picking up a brush, which is super nice and a pleasant change. The high definition table light has got a flexible neck, it has a swivel joint at the head, it's dimmable, and it has an adjustable beam width, which I find super handy. Serious Lights are hand-built in Great Britain, they come with a 5-year warranty and a 30-day risk-free trial. Not only that, but if you use offer code SR495 at checkout, you'll receive £100 off off your high definition light and free delivery. A big thank you once again to Serious Lights for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back to it. Oh, and just as an editing note, you'd have thought that I would have remembered to flip this over so that it's on the non-covered in paint and scratches side for all of that B-roll, but no, I didn't. Terrible. Okay, before we take a look at the two things I'm super excited about, here we go. We've got the plastic Solar Auxilia. Honestly, I think they look really good. I've really liked this army for quite a long time. The idea of playing not Space Marines in the Space Marine heavy setting, it kind of speaks to that contrarian nature that I think some of us have. I know I do. And I do like kind of... They all look like prototypes. Like, it looks like stuff that is kind of finished but also is not fully done yet. It looks like the first version of what they're wearing, which it probably isn't, but it gives that kind of feel off, which I really, really like. I like that a lot. The weapons have almost like a kind of antique feel in a way, and the armor is like clunky. It's not like badly formed or like looks like it's badly made, but it's also not particularly decorative. It's very utilitarian, which I really, really enjoy. We have this command section as well, which, again, that theme of they just look a bit dated, which makes sense because this is an army in the Horus Heresy as opposed to in 40k, but I don't know, it just really, really tickles my fancy, that sort of approach. Now, the things that got me super excited, that I really could not wait to get my hands on, were, I mean, two things, really. The first is the Malcador, because it is a Malcador in plastic. I love the Malcador. The Malcador heavy tank is a fantastic tank. It looks so good. It's also 120 quid on Forge World, which is quite the proposition, especially when you have assembled more than one Forge World vehicle and have come to expect things like warped resin and having to hold things under hot water or in bowls to be able to reshape them to make them fit the thing that you've paid a premium for. I just really love that this is going to be, once again, the same mantra as always. It's going to be cheaper, it's going to be easier to work with, and it's going to be more accessible. That is perfect. I cannot wait to get my hands on 1 to 3 of these, depending on how I'm feeling at the time, or whether I decide I really need them. Admittedly, they do have the disadvantage of, these are going to be like legends. They're not going to be particularly up to date when it comes to 40k, if they maintain having rules in 40k, which I hope they do until the next edition. But even then, most of the people that I am likely to roll a few dice with would accept that as a stand-in for a Rogal Dawn. Even if the whole gun profile thing doesn't match or whatever, most of the people I game with would not care. So I'm in. If this is about the same price as a Rogal Dawn as well, which I think it might well be, maybe a little bit extra, but we'll have to wait and see. Oh, I just can't wait to get some and mess with them and make them mine, you know? Now the thing is, there is a little hint in the Malcador as to what's got me excited about the other thing that was shown off, which is more Leman Russ tanks. Now, we've already got Leman Russ tanks. We already have those, the 40k versions at least, but the Solar Auxilia are getting their own Leman Russes in plastic along with this release. So we're kind of doing an interesting thing here of doubling up on an item that's already completely available and frankly is pretty suitable for that purpose. I'm not entirely sure why Games Workshop has decided to double up on that. I don't think they're going to be getting rid of the current Leman Russ kit for Imperial Guard. I'd be surprised if they did, but I'm also not going to complain about the fact that we actually are going to have 2 different variations of that kit, because the Solar Auxilia one looks fantastic. I mean, look at that. It's so good. Now, one of the things we picked up on pretty quickly when we were looking at the reveals was the fact that you can actually see quite a significant difference on that side panel there. So on the current Leman Russ, the one that you can purchase from Games Workshop, there is really no suspension on show. It's quite a bad design, really. You wouldn't be able to go over any sort of bump without issues. This one, however, has a lot more of the track and the underlying wheels and stuff showing, which the current one doesn't have. Now, I really liked that and tried to do a little bit of a comparison whilst we were live, and it didn't work all too well, so I said I would do a proper version, and that's what we're going to do right now. So I've taken the liberty of taking a picture of one of my tanks. Funnily enough, it's my tank commander, also with a hilarious long gun. And I've cut the other one out and sort of overlaid to take a little look at the things that are slightly different. Now, I did try to take a picture of mine from the right sort of angle. It's not exactly right, but it's close enough. And I know it's got the extra armour, but you'll still be able to see what I mean once we get the old red pen out and start having a bit of a circle around. So you can see on mine, you've got this section that kind of curves around here, and then there is more kind of hull that sticks out around the side. That covers up the side of the tracks, whereas on this one, that is completely missing. You've got that same line, you've got the same kind of seam, but there is nothing covering the sides of the tracks there, and that extends all the way down and all the way up. They've left some of the shielding kind of here, up the top, hiding the tracks along the side and the back, but the fact that it's missing from the front and the underside as well makes a massive difference. You know what, I think the underside is kind of an important bit as well. It's more noticeable at the front there, but right here, just below this section, you've still got a lot of the track being completely covered, which makes it look super low to the ground and makes it look like it's going to kind of bottom out no matter where it goes. By comparison, on the old one, where that line stops and then you've got a kind of panel underneath, on the new one, it goes all the way down and then you have nothing beneath it. You've just got the sides of the tracks, and that makes a massive difference. That makes a huge difference to how this thing looks. It's one of those little changes that actually does a lot to alter the character of the model, and I don't know, it just improves it for me. Now, that being said, there's a lot of extra rivets going on this. I mean, there's also no side sponsons, which there won't be any in the kit. So if you wanted to put sponsons on, that would be a case of having to scavenge them from the other kit or finding alternative methods for creating them. Because, I mean, if you're buying 2 Leman Russ kits for 1 to have sponsons, that's not really a thing. You shouldn't be doing that. But I mean, it's your money. You can do it if you like, but there's got to be more efficient ways to do it, right? Something I really like about this new Leman Russ as well is you'll notice that my tank commander here, there's this big extra bit on the back. That's because it's the Mars Alpha pattern Leman Russ, which, by the way, there's a reason there's only one of these in my army, and it's the tank commander, and that's because for one, it was like £65 or something, whereas a normal Leman Russ was like 30 quid. And if you got them from Element like I did, in a big box of 3 with like an added discount on top, oh boy, paying that much for the HQ, there's a reason why I only ever went for 1. I wasn't going to do that for the whole army. But the fact is, the Mars Alpha pattern Leman Russ looks absolutely solid, because for a start, just the addition of trench rails on the back adds a lot to the tank. But then you've got like an expanded engine bay, you've got like different bits of like little greeblies and stuff, little cables and things all over the back of it, which makes a big difference as well. It kind of increases the length of the tank and adds a lot of visual interest to the rear of it. I also think the turret looks a bit better on the Mars Alpha pattern as well. You'll notice that on this new one, we have a very similar back. We've got the same trench rails. Well, actually, we've got slightly cooler trench rails because they've got rivets on the top, which mine currently does not have. There's also that kind of extra sort of exhaust system going on there. It is pretty much the same rear. It's been resculpted a bit because we've got this kind of metal edging going on with all the rivets, which the current one doesn't have. And we also have what looks like a very similar turret as well. In fact, I think it's pretty much the same turret, but it's got a few resculpted details. So we've got like all that kind of extra trim around the side, and it looks like they've changed this section here a little bit as well. It just makes me so happy because I love my tanks. I absolutely love them. I mean, you can see the Armoured Company up there missing a tank currently. It's in the light box for taking a picture of it. But I have those. There's more waiting to be built over there. I've been looking into various kind of interesting versions of kind of Baneblade size tanks for 3D printing and the like. And the thing is that whilst I love my Armoured Company and I like what I've done with every one of those tanks, my favourite when it comes to just the overall look, the overall feel of it, is the Mars Alpha pattern version of them. It's having that extra length to the tank. It's having the trench rails at the back. It's just having that engine compartment built out more and just having more detail, and there being just more visual interest going on with that version of it. And even with the turret itself, there's just slightly more going on than with the standard one. And Games Workshop have given us the one that I prefer overall in plastic, and with so many weapons options. Like, the assault variant of the tank gives you Volkite and Plasma and adds an additional pintle weapon as well, which is cool. And the strike variant gives you Vanquisher Cannon, it gives you Battle Cannon, Twin Auto Cannon, and Twin Las Cannon. Now, of course, if you were thinking of using these for 40k, you are missing a couple of options. The Punisher Gatling Cannon isn't present, neither is the Nova Cannon either. But I have to admit, part of me was like, well, could you just run Volkite as Nova, or could you run the Volkite as Plasma, and run the Plasma as Nova? I mean, depending on who you're facing, provided you're not in a tournament, I don't know anyone that's going to be that bothered by that. I wouldn't have thought, as long as you make it clear beforehand. At least, I would hope that the people you're playing with would go, yeah, Volkite as Plasma is totally okay. I hope that would be the case. But yeah, it just makes me super happy. I mean, I've already got the tanks that I need. It's not like I'm lacking in tanks or anything, but it really feels like they've taken the thing that I prefer over the base version and then gone, and now they're in plastic. This whole shift of moving so much Horus Heresy stuff over to plastic is just making me happy overall. Like, it's making me joyful that there are more people are going to have access to this stuff, and they're going to find it easier to work with, and they're going to find it more accessible in terms of price and in terms of where they can buy it from. It's just fun. And let's face it, the main thing should be having fun. So yeah, I'm super chuffed with what they're showing off here. Don't worry, there's going to be a video on the Kroot stuff probably tomorrow, because what I want to do is dig out my Tau Codex from when they first launched. I got the Codex, I didn't need it, I got it because I was just like, it's a new army, Necrons and Tau, this is wild. And I kind of want to go through and have a look at what was in there before, because it's kind of funny to me that I loved the fact that Tau had Kroot and Tau had this whole thing of like, it's one army, but it's like there's two different sort of societies going on here, except one is kind of pledged. Like, it was just a really cool concept, and then it sort of got shoved to the wayside for so long, and now there's a Kroot army box. Like, that is wild. I love it. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that probably tomorrow. And yeah, that's about it. This was way longer than it needed to be. This is, I don't know how long this is going to be in the edit, but it's like half an hour of recording. I probably just wasted a load of time that I'm going to cut out, but whatever. I hope you enjoyed that rambly mess. I mean, if you weren't here for rambly messes, you wouldn't be here at all, so I'm sure it's okay. Thank you once again to Serious Lights for sponsoring the video. There'll be a link to them in the description and in the pinned comment. And yeah, I just love tanks.